Governor Cuomo urged legislators to work with him to bring change to state government. But on the day he delivered the State of the State address, 4 Democratic state senators broke from the party to form an independent coalition. They say they are fed up with the Senate's Democratic leadership. They are Bronx State Senator and former Deputy Majority Leader Jeff Klein, also Senator Diane Savino of Staten Island, and freshman Senator David Carlucci of Rockland County. Syracuse area Senator David Valesky, who is not with us, is also part of that group. So we have 3 of the 4 here with us. Are you defectors, essentially, or what are you? What have you done?
We're Democrats that want to govern in a bipartisan fashion. I think the most important thing we need to do, if we learned anything from this past election, is win back the voters' trust. And I think the best way we can do that is independent Democrats like ourselves, who espouse democratic values, working with the new majority in a bipartisan fashion to do the people's business.
How does this independent group make that happen? Diane?
Well, I think first, we're not defectors from the Democratic Party. We're in fact defenders of the Democratic Party. I mean, I ran for office as well as Senator Klein and Carlucci and Valesky and many other Democrats because we believe that the Democratic Party has the best answers for the problems that the state of New York faces. I still believe that. I know my colleagues do. But what we found in the past 2 years working in the New York State Senate under the current Democratic leadership is those ideas and those solutions that we wanted to be able to bring forth for the people of the state of New York got held up time and time again due to partisan bickering with the Republican Party, due to infighting and corruption, and that doesn't solve anybody's problems. And so what we said is we can't continue to go down this road and expect to arrive in a different location. We want to be able to work with either the governor or the majority.
But how does forming this independent coalition kind of make that happen?
Well, look, the system right now isn't working. We know Albany's broken. Politics as usual is not going to work. If we do what we've always done, we'll get what we've always gotten. And the issues at stake and the issues that are important in the Hudson Valley are not necessarily Democratic or Republican. They're about common sense issues like property tax reform and job creation. And we're about getting down to business so we can govern and stop the hyper-partisanship that's plagued Albany for years.
You have, as a group, been compared to Senators Montserrat, Espada, Diaz. I know you're shaking your head at that, but they did break off a couple of years ago. They became, you know, the Gang of 4. There are 4 of you, and those comparisons have been made. You all are shaking your head at that, going, we're not down.
First of all, they changed the outcome of an election. 2 years ago, the Democrats won the majority fair and square, 2 seats. They were going to give the majority to the Republicans after we won, and they were going to be president, majority leader, finance chair. We're not changing the outcome of the elections. The Republicans took the majority, albeit by less than 1,000 votes. But at the same time, I think let's put that election behind us. Let's move forward as Democrats, espousing democratic values and govern in a bipartisan fashion. That's what the people want.
So all of you are saying personally you're not looking for anything out of this?
No, we're looking, actually we shouldn't say that. We are looking for something. We're looking to become responsible legislators, to do what the people who elected us asked us to do, which is go to Albany and try and resolve the problems that the state faces. How do we create jobs in our economy? How do we preserve the jobs that we already have? How do we encourage small businesses? How do we address our healthcare crisis? That's what we were elected to do.
So can we expect at some point you may be voting with the Republicans on some of these issues?
Sometimes and sometimes no. But I think the most important thing is Governor Cuomo needs allies. He has a very ambitious agenda, which I support. He needs like-minded Democrats who can work with Democrats and Republicans to move that agenda forward. And that's what the Independent Conference is going to do.
You don't like the leadership right now. What is wrong with Senator Sampson's leadership?
Senator Sampson is a fine person, you know, and this is not about him personally, and I think people should understand that. But he is part and parcel of a system that rewards people for their bad behavior. You know, we've seen it in the past with Senator Espada. We've seen it in the past with some of the other members of the conference who have, quite frankly, practiced extortion upon the leadership. He's not prepared to confront that. He's not prepared to change the way the Senate operates. And we've simply said, if we can't change it from within, then we're going to try and change the Senate from without and create a whole new independent legislative conference. One that's not interested in power and perks, but that's interested in policy.
And Diana, there's a lot of missed opportunities. You know, I worked very, very hard to take the majority, raise lots of money, worked to recruit candidates, and we were successful. It was a missed opportunity. We didn't do independent redistricting. We didn't do gay marriage. We didn't do anything about reproductive health rights for women. These are the things that we should have done as Democrats, and the leadership was unable to espouse a legislative agenda and move it forward.
You do run the risk, because all of you are white and the leadership is African American. Is this saying that there is something of a racial divide in the state Senate?
Again, I don't believe so. You know, I represent, you know, a large Latino community and an African-American community, and they care about property tax relief. They care about jobs. They're embarrassed about the dysfunction in Albany. They're good Democrats, as I am. They want to see the state move forward successfully and get rid of the dysfunction and do the people's business.
Yeah, I mean, Diane, anywhere I travel in my district and anywhere I go in New York, people are suffering right now. In my community, they're being chased out of our community because of spiraling out of control property taxes. People are losing their jobs, and they don't, you know, they're worried about that. When you can't feed your family, or you're worried about putting clothes on your children's backs, the first priority is, what is your legislator doing to make sure we're attracting jobs to New York? We have to become business friendly. We have to work with the governor to make sure New York is open for business.
And feedback among your constituents having done this?
It's been terrific. I mean, you know, again, one of the reasons why I made the decision, Diana, was because I really got tired of being judged by the actions of others, and looking my constituents in the eye each and every day and explaining the dysfunction, the corruption. So now, moving forward and taking this stand, we've been heroes in our respective districts.
And for myself, you know, I've been involved in trying to make the Senate Democratic for the better part of 10 years, first in the labor movement and then in the New York State Senate. And I've spent more time in the past 2 years explaining the behavior of members of the Senate than in explaining the platform of the Democratic Party. That has to stop.
Excellent.
And I look at myself as a public servant, and I really feel that a weight has been lifted from my shoulders, that I don't respond to or answer to the leadership of the Democratic Party, the leadership of the Republican Party. I respond and answer to the residents of my district, and that's it.
Let me talk about a couple of things that the governor did lay out in his State of the State. And I want to just kind of understand if you all are in agreement on this. One of the things he wants to do is freeze state worker salaries.
Well,
you all agree?
That's somewhat of a given. The state workforce, both the Public Employees Federation and the Civil Service Employees Federation, which represents the bulk of the civilian workforce in the state, their contracts are going to expire next month. Nobody reasonably expects that they're going to get a percentage increase, that they're going to be able to negotiate a raise. They do have an opportunity, and I've heard them, as well as the governor's people, talk about sitting down as quickly as possible to negotiate their next contract, whether it's a one-year contract recognizing the economic difficulties the state faces, or a longer-term one. But they have a chance to work together. So when he says he wants to institute a wage freeze, he's going to have the ability to do that, because he's not going to grant them a raise.
And I think Governor,
do you all agree
yes,
on that?
and I think Governor Cuomo will effectively explain to people why we're all in the same boat, and there has to be shared sacrifice.
Right.
The governor also talked about consolidating some state departments and agencies. What do you think about that?
Absolutely in favor. As a matter of fact, I was chair of a task force on government efficiency, and Diane was a member, and we uncovered, just by looking at 4 agencies, over $1 billion in government waste. So that needs to be done.
Cap on property tax?
Absolutely.
I think everyone agrees on that at this point. Even, you know, even workers who work for the state of New York, they're paying very high property taxes as well. You know, they recognize that we have to do something about property taxes.
I passed the legislation in the Senate.
And what we're all committed to doing is giving the municipalities throughout the state of New York the tools they need to lower costs. Legislation I'm working on would allow municipalities to pool their employees under one health care plan. And right now you can't do that. We've got to do everything possible, common sense solutions to lower costs for the taxpayers.
And I'm wondering, are all your fellow Democrats in the Senate supporting these same things as well? Have you reached out and talked to them? And I mean, are these issues going to move forward pretty quickly, you think?
Well, the property tax cap, we passed almost unanimously in the state Senate last year, the bill that I introduced. Unfortunately, we couldn't effectively negotiate a deal with the Assembly. I'm hopeful Governor Cuomo will be able to accomplish that, and I'm very optimistic he will.
So you need the Speaker, Sheldon Silver, on board.
Yes, we did.
Is it your sense he's on board with a lot of these?
He did, in his speech at the State of the State, he said he did support a property tax cap, but the devil's in the details.
Okay, and what about getting a budget in on time? Deadline is April 1st. You
Well-
haven't experienced,
Right, well,
as a
I mean,
freshman coming in,
it's
how long
something-
it can take to get a budget together.
Right.
But you both know.
Yes, we're well aware of
notoriously,
it.
Yes, how long it can take.
Again, it depends on a lot of things. First of all, none of us have seen the budget yet, so the governor is going to present it to us on February 1st. To the extent that he's willing to work with both houses of the legislature, he'll get a budget done on time. You know, there's the old adage that you don't need an on-time budget, you need a good budget. I mean, I think we need both.
Okay.
Because there are real financial implications for the state, not just us personally
Right.
when the budget isn't passed on time.
Right, but the state as well.
Right.
Okay, I have to leave it at that. All three of you, thank you for
Thank
being
you
with
very
us
much.
this morning.
Thanks
Thank you.
That's going to do it for this edition of Up Close. If you missed any of today's program, you can catch it again on our website, 7online.com. We thank you for watching. I'm Diana Williams. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good one.